pleasure to be here today. It means a lot. I work at Mo-Sys. I'm in charge of strategic partnerships at Mo-Sys, and we are creating technologies for media, entertainment, or everything that is producing content. And we will see why partnerships are so important, of course, especially with education. But first, I want to show you a little reel of what we do. So when I talk about it, you understand exactly what we create the technology for. So as you can see, all our technology is used in a lot of shows. We are, of course, a UK-based company, but these shows are global. So as TV shows you will see on TV, film, broadcasts as well. Strictly Condensing. We are doing all the technology for that to have all these graphics in real time. But we will see what's behind that now. So as you can see, it's also advertisement a lot. Everything that needs media creation. Okay, so there you go. So now the idea is to explain you very briefly. I'm not promising I will go in depth because we only have 10 minutes, I think. What is the technology behind, and so to do so, and then explain why it's so needed to have upskilling and training and teaching around that, because this technology is literally growing every day. Every day we are innovating in that field, and more. So a little bit more about Mo-Sys. Firstly, so Mo-Sys, we are a UK-based company. We're based in Greenwich, and we have 4 offices all over the world. One in Cambridge, one in London, which is our headquarters, Bangkok, and Los Angeles. So really, we are really global. That's a company that was first bootstrapped almost 30 years ago and grown to 100 plus employees. 95% are export to 50 plus countries. As a company, we received actually a strategic investment by LG in 2024 in June, which is to fuel, I would say, our R&D. And finally, we are really innovative. We have 60 plus patents and patent application. And we will see that we need, go back on that for a minute, we need that much innovation if we want to be competitive in media technology. So first of all, I want to explain you very briefly how all of this is working. So to be able to see everything you saw, which were graphics, either for broadcast, or you've seen all these popping graphics or the background in real time, it's all relying on hardware and software. And the main hardware, actually, first of all, before that, I will show you how it was before to do that in real time. That's a project we worked on in 2013 for the movie Gravity. The idea was to show that they were, the astronauts were, of course, in space, so we had to, of course, fake that in real time. But you see the complex machinery behind that. There's a big robotic arm, an industrial arm, and our robotics at the top that was controlling the lens and the camera to be able to achieve that in real time. It was quite groundbreaking at the time in 2013. But now you can do the same thing, and we could do it here, and actually we do it. And I'll show the example of what we did together with the students at Access. And what really simplified it is what we call the Star Tracker. So you see these little dots on the ceiling? There are stickers we stick on the ceiling, and this camera mounted on the camera allows us to, when you move your camera, you see the background move in real time behind the actor. And thanks to that, we can do real-time visual effects. Before it will be done in what you call post-production, and you have to edit it for days and months, and it takes a lot of time and effort. Now it's done in real time, so you don't need all that. Doesn't mean you don't need skills in post-production. It's just shifted to pre-production to be more efficient and to be able to just skip to that. Okay, I'll come back to that after. To be more efficient. but thanks to that also it means if you have a smaller budget as a creative, you can achieve much more. And of course, by streamlining all that, we are reducing drastically our travels, our expense, and it's really has a really positive impact on the carbon footprint. And of course, it's really important also with the Albert in place. It's really important to be in track of all that when we are producing. I wanted to show you another thing, which I think is also very cool. It's something, the technology we have at Mo-Sys that is motion capture with no suits. You might have seen before, you know, a performer wearing these suits with balls on it, and it's all tricky to wear. You don't need these suits anymore. So as you can imagine, it's suddenly opening so many technology. This technology is opening so many ways to create. And you see, so at Mo-Sys it's a lot of different things. It's hardware, as you can see, on which we have our robotics, it's the hardware for the tracking, but also the solution itself to equip such a big broadcast studios, you know, like BBC, Sky, for example. It's not just the hardware and the software that we develop, it's of course the skills around it. And that's why I like this, because it shows, it comes from the hardware, but then that's creating new skills, that's creating new jobs as well, a lot of new jobs. And we see that it has to be an ecosystem between industry, education, and creatives such as productions, and they have to talk to each other, and they have to understand the needs of the industry and the skill gap it's creating. It's really important today to use this technology also on the creative side of things, especially in UK and in Europe, because as we know also AI is growing a lot. But it doesn't mean that we cannot use it, for example, as I showed, to do motion capture, for example, or to create some realistic background. But there is also the generative AI on the content itself, which is creating from A to Z, like a complete, let's say, film in AI. So how are you going to be competitive as a creative against that, or not necessarily against, but when there is a choice to make, then you need to be able to embrace this technology and be upskilled on this technology. So that's why it's so important to bridge the skill gap, to be able to be much more efficient without reducing the creativity, but to be able to do that. So that's why we see that there is technological element and then bridging the skill gap element. So it's really important for us at Mo-Sys. That is why, in the first place, actually, we developed an academy. We are not education provider, but that was needed when the technology arrived, because suddenly our customer needs to be also empowered in using the technology. And that's a new skill. It's not something we've been teaching for years. It's completely new with the technology. So with that, that's why it's important for us to work with education partner, and with the example of Access Creative College, it's important for us to discuss what are their needs in terms of production, but also it's really important for us to give them the background of where the technology is heading, and in 2-3 years it will be a very different workflow than what we have today. So that's why it's important to build studios in schools, in college, universities that are meeting the challenges of today and the future. Because some productions, some studios themselves don't even know necessarily what is the best, I will say, infrastructure for building the studio. And we know it because we know where it's heading as a hardware and software manufacturer. So that's why it's so important. So that's a great example of our first collaboration with Access College. We discussed for a long time, like what, for example, for first understanding the curriculum, it one needs to be what they need to learn, what the students need to learn, and then showing you as well where we think it's heading and what is great for them to come back home with and be certified. And then we discuss the technology together as well, and to be able to equip the space and to have the most efficient technology. And I think it worked really well. And worked so well that we also had students coming at Mo-Sys in placement, and all of them, they all had, I remember we came with Michael, our CEO, and we were meeting the students, and we kind of, I know that Michael likes to do that, and ask them like, what do you study now? Where do you see yourself? What do you like to do? And sometimes you will have no answer, but sometimes some are already, they know really well what they want to do in general, but not very in depth. And then having them coming to visit the office, it's really making a difference, because then they can see and understand what's new and really understand what they like. And then having them as an internship also makes a difference. I take the example of Mika, who was doing his during T-level work experience with us, and which is really interesting because he started with something that is completely different that he's doing today, actually, which is really great. I think we really like that at Mo-Sys, because you come in thinking you are going to do that, and then when he saw the workflow of virtual production, which, as you saw earlier, is completely new, it's not, and with the teaching he had, suddenly he felt that, well, it's a bit more what I want to do here. And at Mo-Sys, because we are developing constantly and we are all about research and development, we have space for this kind of change in career. So especially when you're just starting, it's so important to feel like you're doing what you love. So that was great. I think Mika says providing flexible opportunity in various fields. So that's really good to see that he's happy with us and it's working really well. And something really important as well that we did with Access, and that is really needed, I think, is that you came to us to also film in the industry, at the offices actually, and in the studio, a full sort of behind the scene of what's happening here. And it's not just like the theory, but it's like really seeing it used in action. I think it makes a big difference. So it's great that they also have access to all this library of different examples, and you see it really being used. And for us, it's really important as well that students, but also actual professionals in the film and broadcast industry that need upskilling, because there are new skills needed to be able to play around on the technology hands-on. And that's what is making the complete difference, especially when we talk about production days. They are really hectic. You don't have any time for experimentation. If you are messing up something, you have to be really quick to have a plan B. You have no time for experimentation. That's why it's so important to be able, in a lab, for example, in the studio that you have, or with partners, to be able to do a lot of trial and error, to test things until we feel confident. And then for the students or for the person who's been skilled to come on set and having prior to the shoot, being able to use the technology hands-on, that's completely different. They feel much more confident. So that's why it's so important to have this partnership and to discuss all together as well between education, industry, and to be able to be a leader in media and entertainment technology for the coming years. So I'm looking forward to talk with all of you, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you.